Welcome everyone, Farmer Cop here. This is going to be my top 10 requests, and I'm going to go over quite a few things actually in this video that I would like to see in the next Farming Simulator game, which I'm going to guess is Farming Simulator 25, just based on the fact that we've had this game, Farming Simulator 22, for 2 years now, and they typically release it at the end of the year, so I'm assuming they released it in November of 2024. That all just kind of makes sense. Again, nothing's been announced. I don't have any super secret stuff or anything like that. I'm just guessing. Farming Simulator in general by Giant Software has been pretty predictable in terms of names and releases. So I'm just guessing there, and none of this stuff is guaranteed to be in that. These are just the things that I want to see. And as you guys are listening to this, let me know down in the description or down in the comments what you guys want to see in the next Farming Simulator game. So first off, for number one, as we get into it, is equipment. So obviously, we want to see new brands. We want to see more brands of tractors, more brands of other equipment like that. And another big thing, and I don't think this is going to happen, but I do wish it would happen, is I would love to see some brands like Chevy or Dodge or Ford, and we could get like some farm trucks and stuff like that and do that sort of thing. I'd love to see some of that kind of happen. Again, I don't think that's going to happen, but it would be cool. And I know a lot of you guys are pretty on board with this and would like to see more of this. And again, I don't know if it's going to happen or not, is vintage equipment. I'd like to see some kind of smaller pieces of equipment, some older school pieces of equipment. The problem with this typically is that manufacturers want to show off their new stuff, which is fair. But it'd be cool to have some of their old stuff in the game instead of just through mods, but have some of this in actually the base game. The other thing that I think would be cool to see is some larger equipment. Now, I know we have plenty of large equipment now, but what I mean by larger equipment is larger equipment for specific jobs. So, for example, we do potatoes or sugar beets. There is bigger equipment that exists in the real world that can do those pieces of equipment or harvest those things faster because they're just bigger. So I'd like to see some of that sort of stuff, or bigger sugarcane harvesters, to make those kind of crops less of a hassle is what I'd like to see. Then I would think the next thing is going to be kind of new features that I want to talk about. So for number two, new features, pesticides, maybe we have to deal with pests. I think that would be kind of cool to have to deal with that. And of course, I like with anything that's a feature like that, I would like it to be something you can turn on or off depending on your gameplay style. So maybe it's like weeds where you turn it on or off if you want to have pests and have to deal with that. And maybe you need specific pesticides for certain pests. But anyhow, even if it was just an overall just pest and you had to spray something on your field to deal with pests, I think that would be pretty cool. I'd also like to see more wildlife. So we have deer, we have storks now and stuff like that. So just got to see some more stuff happening around, maybe like some wild fox, roaming around. Maybe you see like, a raccoon at night. I don't know. It's just some cool stuff like that to kind of add a little bit more life to the map. I think would be cooler to the game. And then moving on from there, more productions. I think we can continue with more productions, get some more stuff going, maybe some different stuff like that. Like, for example, potato chips didn't come until a DLC. I think there's more stuff we can do with potatoes and stuff like that. Then moving on from there, I think construction projects. If you remember from the Platinum DLC, we had the roller coaster project. I think having more things like that on maps where you deliver materials and then you can build something, I think is really cool. And then another thing I think is kind of interesting, and some of you guys might have really good ideas for this or for other things, is kind of like agro-tourism. Like, maybe you can place things and rent houses out and stuff like that, but instead of like a fixed income, like there's certain ways you can make it more appealing to people or not. So that way, instead of like, for example, we have stuff that earns you passive income. So in the game right now, if you placed a solar panel, it's going to make you a steady amount of money. Maybe this is something that you can try to make a steady amount of money, but if you're not very good at hosting people, you're not going to make very much money. So something like that. I don't know. I think there's a lot of possibilities there. Number three, of course, has to be crops. We want to see more crops. I think we could see fruit, we could see nuts, more grains, mustard, beans, rice. I think those are all very, very appropriate things to add into the game, and I think it'd be cool to see some more things like that. I know a lot of you guys are always looking for more crops and stuff like that. Historically, they've always added a couple of new crops into the game. For example, in FS22, they added grapes, they added olives, and they added sorghum, which was a good start. Like, I'm not going to complain. And of course, with the premium edition, we have 3 new root crops, which I'm, again, not complaining about the crops we have now. We have a lot of stuff to do, but I always want to see more crops in the game. And I think that the game is always trying to add more crops, and the developers are always trying to do that. So again, more crops I think would be cool. And kind of going with this, I know it's kind of its own category, but I didn't want to do its own thing on this. I think when you sell bales of things, like bales of straw, or bales of hay, or bales of grass, I think it should be worth more than loose hay, grass, straw. Because in the real world, bales are much easier to deal with than loose product for farmers, so it just makes a lot more sense. It's like transporting something in a box versus a bunch of stuff laying around on the ground. So I think that if you sell bales, they should have a higher value, or you should get like maybe like a fee for like a bailing fee, like maybe you get 20 bucks a bail just because you bailed it. So that way there's kind of an incentive to bail. I think that would be kind of cool to have that. So just something I thought about. Number 4 kind of goes hand in hand with adding new stuff to the game. We want more animals. Animals need to be kind of upgraded a little bit, I think. Some more animals, maybe like ducks. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of animals you guys want to see in the game that you guys have seen on farms. I mean, there's llamas, alpacas, there's all sorts of things. Honestly, if there is an animal in the world, there's probably a farm that has it on there. Maybe a fish farm. You know, there's all sorts of stuff. And I know some of the stuff we have as mods, but I'd like to see all this kind of stuff come into the base game. Another thing is baby animals. I know a lot of you guys want to see this versus just a young animal. You guys want to see some different graphics and stuff like that for baby animals. I also like to see some more realism in animals. I don't necessarily have exact options that I'm thinking of here, but grazing is one where you guys can have them maybe move them pasture to pasture, graze them. When you're building animal pens, you can set the pasture to a certain area and it calculates how much grass is in there, how much feed they get a year out of that, or how many animals it can sustain. Stuff like that. And with anything that I like that, including, well, one thing we actually lost with FS22 is like having to clean out like manure and, you know, spills and stuff that animals made. I think that should be added back in, but as with anything, I think this stuff should all be optional. So there should be an option that says, do you have to clean up after your animals? And you can turn it on or off. I like options, that way kind of it appeals to everyone. And maybe we add like veterinarians into this because maybe we need to take care of our animals. And this again is also a thing that you could have as an optional feature where you have to be like, oh, well, we have to get them vaccinated and this, that, or the other thing, or take care of them. Otherwise there's a higher risk of them having a disease or they're not worth as much. You know, things like that I think could be added into the game in terms of animals pretty easily. Number 5 is the AI and workers in general. So AI traffic's, it's not great, but you know, it just is what it is. You can turn it on or off. I'm not too worried about that, but I want to see better workers. So a lot of you guys use Courseplay, especially if you're on PC. Well, because if you're on console, it's not available to you, but that kind of Courseplay feature of working, being able to kind of customize your workers to do things, I would like to see stuff like that. Or when you move a worker up to a field, you hit hire. Instead of just going up and down the field, they do a couple headlands, then they go up and down the field. I don't know the capabilities of getting that programmed or how difficult that would be. I can imagine it'd probably be fairly difficult to do that. But having better workers that can kind of look at a field and know how to do it like a normal person would be kind of cool. In addition to that, I think you should be able to hire animal helpers. So, for example, there's a set fee per animal, maybe a day, like for every cow, you have to pay $10 a day to hire this person to come take care of your cows or X, Y, or Z. And they do everything. So like they feed them and all that. And maybe you can put, you know, they have a selection of bales and stuff they know they're allowed to eat. I don't know, however you set it up, but have animal helpers that actually help things. And make horses actually worthwhile. Horses are currently not worthwhile. Sorry, I should have put that under animals, but that came to mind right now. It's not even on my list. So do that. I also think workers should be able to bale and collect straw base game for all platforms. Everything I'm talking about, by the way, I want to see this in all platforms. I don't want anything special for PC that's not on consoles. And I know some of this stuff is difficult to add, but this is stuff I want to see across the board. I also want to see you be able to hire like companies to do stuff. Like maybe you outsource, like you're like, hey, I'm going to hire your company to come do a contract on this field and plow it for me or seed it for me or fertilize it or lime it. You know, stuff like that. Maybe or harvest it even. So you don't have to hire, you don't have to buy a harvester. So you can pay someone to come do that and still make money off your, land and stuff like that. So it's kind of a little bit cheaper. Or maybe you hire a trucking company to come take all of your crops and deliver them for you with like a 5 or 10% penalty. Or maybe it's a flat fee for a certain volume. So just stuff like that, I think, to kind of add a little bit more realism to how farmers kind of do it in the real world and to make it a little bit easier for you. Moving on to number 6 is vehicle maintenance. So I think that there should be random events. If your maintenance is below maybe 50%, like the thing might just stop working and be done, and you have to have it towed into the shop. And the worse the maintenance gets and the less you maintain it, that is just what it is. And you have to tow it or deal with it. Or maybe there's like specific expensive things that need to be fixed. Like you're driving and because you haven't maintained your tractor very well, the engine blows up. So instead of like paying a flat percentage rate, which we do right now in the game, to repair it, you have to literally buy a new engine and it'd be like a very expensive repair. Or maybe your tire blows out and you need a new tire. So stuff like that I think would be really cool. And that's something I think would be very realistic for farming and stuff like that. And I also think you should have the ability to turn that off as an option. Again, I'm very pro options here. People should be able to have these options to turn things on and off in the menu. So you could turn off random vehicle maintenance events or something like that. You also should be able to hire a tow truck if you're stuck, which I know we can kind of reset stuff, but maybe you hire a tow truck and they come pull you out. That might be pretty difficult to add in. But yeah, and I know a lot of you guys are going to ask for, crash damage. If you crash, you're going to need, damage on your tractor or whatever. I'm not against, like, if you hit a solid object, like a little damage fee or damage bar happens there. I just don't think it's going to be very practical for them to program actual physical damage into the equipment. For number 7, some menu upgrades. So first off, a better finances menu, period. I want you to be able to see more information and see breakdowns. So like, for example, I want you to be able to go in your finance menu and be able to select the production facility. And from there, you can look at the profit for that specific facility based on their output. And maybe you can even enter your own prices into it for like, oh, if we sold it for this, how much would we make? Stuff like that. Also see a full history of your finances. I want to be able to see everything you've ever done and go back month by month to take a look at everything and know what the categories actually are. So what I mean by that is you have like, for example, it'll say new equipment, and then it'll have a price for how much you spent on new equipment. I want to then be able to click on that and see all the new equipment I bought and how much each piece of equipment cost. Or it says harvest profit or harvest income. I want to be able to click that and see how much I made off of each crop and what price I got for each crop and what I sold. I want to be able to see a lot of information to kind of manage things better. And obviously, this stuff is really easy to add in because it's just the data is all collected anyways by the game. All they'd have to do is have an ability for you to see it. And if you don't care about this, you just don't have to look at the finances menu. Easy peasy. I'd also like to see a better productions menu. So if you're like me and you have a lot of productions going on a map, it's kind of hard to manage. So I'd like to be able to organize those maybe into folders with different productions and stuff like that, or have ones that you have set to hide, or you can, and then when you go back into the menu, it doesn't reset, like just have it a little bit better, I think. So I think a lot of work could be done with the productions menu as well to make it a little bit easier to use when you have a lot of productions running. Moving on to number 8, this is something I think a lot of you guys I've heard ask for, is kind of like a story mode and some random events. So maybe there's like a story mode where you follow the story and you start on a new farm, I don't know, and you work through this nice storyline for, I don't know, maybe it's like a 4 or 5 hour storyline, or 6, maybe it takes you 8 hours to do, however long, and then after that you can continue on your own with the farm that you've now built up through this story mode. Something like that I think would be really cool. And then random events, like random weather events, like, oh, this I don't know, a hurricane or tornado or bad windstorm, it's going to decrease your yield this year by a certain percentage, or certain crops are going to be affected by it. Maybe random events like pests, if they don't have that as its own feature. I think also like market demands and surpluses. I know we have great demands and stuff like that, but kind of better than that, like have an actual event like, oh, there's a wheat shortage across the world, blah, blah, blah. This place is, there's 60% increase in price and crazy increases in price, not just great demands. Or even like surplus is like, oh, sorry, there's too much hay in the world, or whatever. That's probably never going to be true. But there's too much of X, Y, or Z, and the prices are decreased overall. And then in addition to that, maybe like in the store, like for example, they're like, hey, like for example, if you remember the world, we had a big chip shortage. So vehicle manufacturers in the world were not able to manufacture vehicles as effectively. So maybe stuff like that, where it's like, now you have to pay 30% more for brand new tractors. So that's going to be a bit of a problem for you. I also think in addition to that, there could be probably a better used tractor market, maybe more than just like 4 or 5 things available. So I think something bigger like that. Maybe there's a manufacturer shortage, stuff like that. So I think kind of stuff like that, or maybe the manufacturer's extra, so it's 20% off this one brand or 20% off tractor, something like that. I think there could be some cool stuff like that added into the game. All right, for number 9, I have kind of just quality of life upgrades is what I'm going to call this section. So first off, GPS, all platforms. I think that feature should be available all platforms. You guys have been asking that forever. I've been asking for it. That's something we've wanted to see forever. It shouldn't be that hard to add in. I think more missions. So like, yes, we can do just about everything, but I think even more than that. Let's go further than that. Maybe there's animal missions. You have to come feed this person's cows or chickens or whatever the case may be. Or maybe you have to like farm sit for a week or 2 months or whatever. I don't know. Stuff like that. I think that there's a lot of untapped potential with missions like that, or anything like that. A farmer has you come manage this or that, or do this or that, or maybe a farmer's like, hey, can you come pick up this tractor, get it towed in, take it to the repair shop, I need it fixed. All sorts of things could happen with that. I think that the store menu could have some upgrades to it. First off, there should be a search feature like the Mod Hub has, so you should be able to search by a specific criteria like name or something like that, so you can search for something that you're looking for, especially in the build menu. I think that should be available as well. You should be able to search for that, but I'll mention the build menu here in a second. We also should be able to search by horsepower, like show me all tractors between this horsepower range or greater than this horsepower. Show me tractors by price, or show me vehicles by price or equipment by price. Show me trailers and stuff by fill type, like can it hold this? Like if I search wood chips, it'll show me everything that can hold wood chips or something like that. Just to kind of have a search feature like that, I think would be cool. Also map upgrades, dynamic maps or PDAs, I think would be pretty cool, where you can see actively what's happening on the lower left-hand corner map. And we know we can do it because we see it in precision farming with some stuff, so we know it's possible. It'd just be cool to see that no matter what game mode you're playing with, and see that sort of thing happen. Maybe even like a multiple view if you're looking inside the menu at what you need to do to your field. So for example, if you need your field fertilized, plowed, and limed, you can only see one of those on the field at a time. You have to turn the other ones off to be able to see everything going on that field to make sure everything's done. So maybe there's like a you know, I don't know, like it's kind of slashed or checkered or something like that with multiple colors. So, you know, oh, this needs plowed, limed, and fertilized or something like that. So I don't know, that might be a little bit more complicated, but it'd be cool to see. Finally, for number 10, the build mode. I will say this, the build mode we have now is a significant upgrade from Farming Simulator 19, but there is still a long ways to go. If you guys are like me, which I think a lot of you guys are in this, at least in this way, is you guys like to customize your farm. You like to do what you want with it, build it the way you want. Yeah, let's get a better build mode. First off, an undo button. When you go into build mode, you should be able to hit undo if you do something wrong and landscape stuff instead of having to save the game, you know, close out without saving, load back in. God forbid you have autosave on and you accidentally, you know, ruin your whole farm. I know a lot of you guys have done it. I've done it. It sucks. More paintable textures as well. Like paintable fields should be a base game feature. So if you don't want to add fields in yourself, you can use the painting tool to do that. Yeah, maybe you're able to like highlight an area or use like waypoints to square off an area, and then you can say, okay, I want this texture in that area I just squared off or selected. Stuff like that to make it easier. Make it easier to terraform. I know you guys want dynamic ground. That's probably not going to happen. It's a bit unrealistic for the game, I think, in the game engine. But regardless of that, we need to make it easier to terraform. We have the hill tool, which is really nice, but I think it can get even better and even easier to terraform. And so I think they should work on that quite a bit. Another big thing that really bothers me that I think should have already been in the game is placeable like train tracks and roads. Train tracks not so much, but roads for sure. You should be able to place your own road, like select a dirt road texture and then place a dirt road down instead of just painting dirt on and calling it a road. And you should be able to like connect that up. I almost want like a city's skylines ability to be able to connect roads around and stuff like that to make it kind of work that way. I think that would just be cool, and to connect like driveways and stuff like that. I don't know. That's just me. I think that would be a cool feature. And the last thing I think with build mode is you should be able to zoom out a little more. I think we can't zoom out as far as we'd like to. I think we should be able to zoom out a little bit more to be able to see a little bit more of what's going on. So I think that would be pretty helpful there. But yeah, I think that's what I have for you guys. Let me know what you guys want to see in the next Farming Simulator game, whether it be 25, 26, 27, whatever it's going to be. Let me know what you guys want to see in that next game. And if you guys did enjoy this video, please drop a like down below. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button up on the screen. Join the Farmer Cop channel. Turn your notification bell so you don't miss any future videos I may post. This has been Farmer Cop. Thank you guys for coming and watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.